There are four types of arguments you can declare in a function. We have the required arguments, keyword arguments, the default arguments, and the variable length arguments. In required arguments, the number of arguments supplied in the function call must be same with the one in the function declaration. Look at this instance. This is the function declaration. This is where we declare the function, and we have two arguments right in there. When you call the function, you must put in two arguments because you declare two arguments here in the function declaration. Let me comment out some of this code right here, and let's just look at this and print someone. Okay, so in this sample, I have my function right here, and in my function, I have two arguments in the function, and while I'm calling it here, because it's a required argument, I have to put in two arguments in the function call. If you take out one argument, it's going to give you error because it's actually the function call requires two arguments. You can see the error here. It says missing one required positional argument B. That is, it can see the A argument, but it can see the B. So when you put in B, put in any number, 14 plus 10 is going to give you 24. So required arguments will look at the number of arguments here is required when it is called. The number of arguments in the declaration is required in the call. Another argument type is the keyword argument. The argument in the function call must have the name specified in the function definition. When calling functions, arguments can be placed in any order, not as defined. Okay, let's look at what that is. I'm just going to show you this example. I have a function right here, and it's pretty much the same way we write out all our functions, but it has name and moment as the arguments in the function greetings. But because it's a keyword argument, I will also put in the argument name the way I declared it right here. I'm going to put it also in the call. So I have moment and then name. You would notice that I am not actually following the way I declared it. In required argument, you have to follow it. But in keyword argument, you can start with whatever, because as long as you can actually state that this is the name, you state the name in the argument, and it has to be the same name. So moment here, this is the value for moment, and name here, this is the value for name. So it's going to print out hello, the name, and then how are you this moment, print out moment. So moment here is afternoon and name is Abraham. Now if you look at the outputs, this is what is going to print. Hello Abraham, how are you doing this afternoon? So I can do this. I can also in whichever way you arrange it, it's going to work. So moment, this is how it's been arranged in the default arrangement. Evening. So let me comment this out. You can see it says, hello James, how are you this evening? So keyword arguments requires you to put in the names of the arguments in your call. When you call it as you declared it, you put in the name of the argument. Now you're gonna have fault if the names are not the same. For instance, I have moments here. It's not gonna work because there is no moment here. It has to be the same name as declared. You can mix keyword and required argument together, provided required argument comes first. Look at this example. I have age here, name and moment. I intend the value age to be a required argument and name and moment to be keyword arguments. So right here, I'm calling the function here. And in my call, I in age, I didn't specify the name because this is a required argument, and these are keywords argument. So these two are keywords argument. You can see because they are keywords argument, I don't have to put it, I don't have to add name first before moment. I did moment first before name, and then I also added the required argument. The trick here is that the required argument has to come first before the keywords argument. Look at this example. I'm going to comment this out and I'm going to put this. Now, I have moment, I have name, and then I have 15, which is a keyword argument. This won't work. It's going to throw an error because your required argument is expected to come first. You can have 1, 2, 3 required arguments, but those required arguments has to be the first set of arguments you have. Then you can have keywords argument, following it. The next argument type is the default argument. The default argument definition must have or is expected to have predefined value in the arguments. Let's look at this example. In an instance where you can determine what you want it to be flexible such that you can either put in an argument or not, then you should use a default argument. In this instance, we have a function called intro, and it has the argument name and then info. Argument name and info. Now, argument name is a default argument and info is also a default argument, and it has a default value of unspecified, and info also has a default value of I am unknown. So the return value for this function returns a value is my name is whatever is in name and then whatever is in info. So if you run this code right now, let me uncomment, that is, you run intro and you don't specify any argument, it's going to use this default arguments. So you can see right here is printing out my name is unspecified, I am unknown, just as it is here. So it's going to print out my name is unspecified, then the next one, I am unknown. Let me comment it out. If you put in just one, it's still going to accept it because both have default arguments. So in this instance, you have info added, but the name is not added. So it's going to print out my name is unspecified, I am a nurse. In this instance, I have the name and also the info added. It says my name is Matthew, I am a doctor, because it says Matthew and then doctor. So in this case, it says my name is Sylvester, I am an artist. When you're not sure the amount of arguments to supply in your declaration or in your function call, you should use the variable length argument. This enables you to supply unlimited number of arguments in your function call. Now let's take an example here. I'm going to declare a function and add all function to add numbers together, and I'm going to declare a sum 0. What I want you to note here is that in declaring a variable length function, you're going to put an asterisk in front of the variable. This shows that this is a variable length function. You can have multiple numbers put there. You can have 100 numbers. You can have numbers of text, whichever thing you want to put in there. So I'm just going to assume that we have a lot of stuff in there, and I'm going to loop through it. This nums, I'm going to loop through it and then add each one into sum. Basically, this is summing up together all the whatever amounts I put here. Basically, you can add iterables here. You can add list. You can add tuple in this place. So I'm just going to return the sum here. So this is basically a function that takes in variable number of arguments and then loop through the number of arguments and then print out a result. So I'm going to run. Okay, I'm going to say result is because it returns a function. So I'm just going to store the function, the result in a function in the variable called results. I'll be putting in several numbers. And then I'll print out results. Print results. Can you see it printed out 133? So this is what it did. It took out all these numbers. It added them all here. It added them all together and in the sum variable, and then returned the results, returned the sum variable. So whatever number I add, if I put in, you see the number will change here. If I put in more numbers, it's going to change. It recognizes all this. So if you're not sure the number of arguments you want in here, then you're going to be using the variable length arguments. Another form of variable length argument we have is the arbitrary keyword argument. The arbitrary keyword argument is just like, it's a variable length argument actually, but it is for keywords. Keywords that has a declaration that has a name and the value. So let's look at this example. I'm going to comment out this example for us to see, and then you would note that I declared this, and the way to declare an arbitrary keyword argument is to have double asterisk. Remember, the variable length argument is just an asterisk, but for arbitrary, it's going to be double an argument. And when I am, what I did was, it's arbitrary, so I declared here, and then I looped through all the arguments and then printed out the key and then the value. The key, this is the key, and then of course the value. So if I run this right now, it's going to print out name and then Matthew, age 45, date, and it's going to print out the date. So what the argument does is that it actually creates a dictionary of whatever value you are putting in your function call. In variable length argument only, it creates a tuple of whatever argument you're putting in your call. So in this instance, you can see I added name, age, date. If I add another one, say gender equals male, see, it's going to add that too. It's going to add gender male, say class equals first. So sorry, classes, this is a special word, shouldn't be using that. Group, let me use the word group. So it has group. So because it's a variable length argument, it's an arbitrary length argument, it's creating a dictionary of those arguments I'm adding in the code. Let me comment this out so you actually see what goes on in the code. Let's run another function. I'm going to call it tests, and it's going to have an argument. You're going to be seeing this a lot in Python. And then quags, yeah, these are variables. These are variables. This is a variable length, and this is an arbitrary. They are both variable length. Let me print out exactly what it's printed. I'll say all args. All args, all quags. So I want you to print the quags out here. I want you to print the args out here. So I have a function here. The function prints out, if I call the function here test and I pass in some arguments, you see, it's going to create a tuple and it's going to put in all the numbers I had, because these are variable length. Now if I add some arbitrary arguments, the quags are arbitrary keywords. So I'm going to say name equals Emmanuel, age equals 67. So you notice this is also creating it's printing out the quags here. I mean, this variable arbitrary argument is printing out a dictionary of name Emmanuel, age 67. This is how you can mix this together. What you can do is, let me make another copy. What you can do is put the arbitrary first before the variable length. It's not going to work. So you can see right here, it's saying argument follows keyword argument. So it's not going to work because I'm putting in the keywords first. That's not how I declared it here. So, and again, I told you something similar. I can also add some more arguments, like let's say record. The record is a required argument. You know, right here I have the variable length argument. I have the arbitrary argument. I can also state in here that rec, okay, print, because print out rec1. Sorry. Print out record is rec. Now it's going to take the first argument as rec. Then it's going to take every other one as the variable length. And then it's going to take those declared with keys and values. It's going to take them as quags because it is an arbitrary argument. So if I change the item here to record 234, so it's going to use that. Record is rec 234 233, and then it's going to use this one as the args, and then it's going to use this one, and then like I told you, you can increase it, you can add more. It's going to increase in your argument, and then you can also add more to your quags. The arbitrary argument is going to also increase it.